It's easy to think about goals at the beginning of the year. It's that fresh start season, new year, new you, and all that jazz. Everyone's talking about resolutions, so you do too. And then promptly forget about them come February or March. By the time summer hits, all those good intentions have been long forgotten, and then fall comes and almost feels like, what's the point? The holidays are right around the corner, so you might as well wait until next year, right? And I get it, but I don't buy it. Because what I've learned over the past 15 years of being super intentional with my goals is that 90 days is actually a long time. Long enough to make real progress on anything you want for your life, long enough to see real results, but still short enough to keep you focused, even in the midst of a busy season. And I believe that you have the power to make this your best quarter yet, not next year, not when life gets less crazy, right now. This year, we're not limping to the finish line. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast brought to you by Thinlicious. I'm your host, Ruth Soukup, and here we'll talk about everything from the science of weight loss to practical tips for making your health a priority in the midst of a busy life. It's a little bit nerdy, a little bit funny, and a little bit revolutionary. So buckle up, friend, because it's about to get real. Hey there, and welcome back to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast. Once again, my name is Ruth Soukup, and if you only know me from this podcast or through my Thinlicious brand, then you might not know that before I got super passionate about helping women lose weight and get healthy by healing your body, I spent many years helping women create better home systems, manage their time, and achieve their goals. I even had my own planner, the Living Well Planner, and related planning tools that I sold for 10 years, along with a different planner for my business clients called the Quarterly Execution Playbook. Suffice to say, I get pretty fired up when I start talking about setting and achieving goals. I've been working in what I call quarterly sprints for over a decade, and yet it never ceases to amaze me just how much you can accomplish in one 90-day period if you have a solid process for figuring out what you want and then creating a plan to execute. So to me, it doesn't really matter whether it's January or April or July or October. Every 90 days is a chance to start fresh. And so today I want to talk about what that actually looks like from a totally practical perspective and take a deep dive into the steps you can take to make this last quarter of the year your absolute best quarter of the year. So I'm going to be walking you through my entire planning system, the same one that's helped me stay on track for years, even when life gets absolutely chaotic. The same one that helped me build multiple successful businesses, but also helped me accomplish other big things, like writing 7 books and losing 49 pounds and paying cash for my dream house. And while in this episode, I'm going to walk you through everything I do from making my quarterly big picture plan down to how I plan my days, I also want to invite you behind the scenes to watch me do it all in real time this quarter through something I'm calling the Finish Strong Project. I'll tell you more about it in a minute, but I want you to know that whether your goals are health-related, business-focused, relationship-centered, career-driven, or you just feel like you need a kick in the pants for getting your life together in general, this episode is for you. So let's dive in. And I'll start by telling you exactly what inspired me to do this episode and to create the Finish Strong Project. Because like most good ideas, it was actually born out of a conversation with my friend Edie, who also happens to be the physician advisor for our TAS program. We often chat on Friday mornings as she's driving to go see her grandbabies, probably because she knows there aren't that many people who are ready to have deep business conversations at 6 a.m. But Edie was telling me about this Facebook group she'd started last quarter where she basically invited people to follow along with her planning process. She said it was the most fun and motivating thing she'd ever done. Sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, the frustrations, just real transparency about what it actually looks like to pursue big goals. And something about that conversation instantly just lit me up. Because like I said, I've been teaching quarterly planning for years. I've had a planner company, created time management courses like Tame Your Time and the Daily Productivity Guide for bloggers. And I personally use 90-day sprints for everything in my life and business. But Edie's approach was different. She wasn't just teaching it, she was living it out loud and letting people see the whole messy, beautiful process. That's when I realized something. People sometimes think if you're good at goal setting, it must be easy all the time. Like you never have to readjust or recalibrate or deal with resistance. But that's not reality, is it? The truth is, even those of us who love planning still face the same human struggles everyone else does. We still have days when motivation is nowhere to be found. We still have to navigate busy seasons and unexpected challenges. So I decided to create the Finish Strong Project, a private Facebook group where I'm going to take you behind the scenes of my actual quarterly planning and execution process. You'll see how I prioritize when everything feels urgent, how I handle resistance when it shows up, how I adjust course when life throws curveballs. But I'll also give you access to the same planning tools I'm using. In fact, I created a special planner just for this project that pulls it all together in one insanely cool place so that you can be working on your goals right alongside me. And honestly, I'm so freaking excited about this whole idea that I can hardly stand it. Because what I hope you'll get out of joining is realizing how amazing it is for your life when you start implementing a really intentional planning rhythm. It's so transformative for your time, your energy, your motivation when you're not dependent on waking up motivated every single day, but when you have rhythms and routines that work like muscle memory, you stay on track, even when you're not feeling it. Because I'm setting my intention right now. I want the final quarter of 2025 to be my best quarter yet. Come January 1st, I want to be able to look back and say, wow, I really crushed it. And then I want to use that momentum to make 2026 even better. And I have a feeling you want the same thing. Who wouldn't? But let's be honest, most of us tend to lose momentum as the year winds down. The holidays sneak up, life gets busy, and before you know it, you're limping to the finish line instead of sprinting through it with intention. But not this year. This year, we're going to finish strong. By the way, if you're listening to this and wondering how you can join the Finish Strong Project, I've put the link in the show notes for this episode. So after you're done listening, be sure to go check it out. In the meantime, let me walk you through what my quarterly planning process actually looks like. Because I love working in quarterly sprints. It's like the sweet spot for setting and achieving goals. It's long enough to make real meaningful progress, but short enough that you don't lose sight of what you're working toward. There's still urgency. There's still that sense of, I only have 13 weeks to make this happen. Think about it. When you have a whole year to accomplish something, it's easy to think, oh, I'll start next month. But when you only have 90 days, every week matters. Every day starts to feel important. I've been using quarterly sprints for almost as long as I've been a business owner, and the results speak for themselves. But what makes quarterly planning truly powerful isn't just the goals themselves. It's about developing a rhythm that creates momentum. Because motivation is fleeting. We all know that. You don't wake up motivated every single day. That's why you need systems and routines that work like muscle memory to help you stay on track, even when you're not feeling it. And that's exactly what we're going to walk through today. Not just how to set quarterly goals, but how to create a planning rhythm that actually supports you in achieving them. Because like I always say, big goals don't happen all at once. They're only the result of small steps taken consistently over time. But sometimes developing that consistency takes practice, and that's where having the right tools and systems becomes absolutely crucial. Plus, there's something energizing about the final quarter of the year. You have this natural deadline approaching, December 31st, and you can either use that to create urgency and momentum, or you can let it become an excuse to wait until next year. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty. This is my exact process for quarterly planning, and I want you to really pay attention because this isn't theoretical. This is what actually works in real life with real challenges and real time constraints. The first thing I always do is what I call a life score assessment. I rank myself in 5 key areas of my life: money, home, relationships, purpose, and health. And for me, this isn't about judgment or making myself feel bad. It's just about getting honest about where I am right now. Because if you want to make progress, you first have to know where you stand. I think sometimes we just feel stressed in general, but we haven't actually pinpointed what's causing that stress. We haven't taken the time to step back and think about how we're doing in each different area of our lives. This assessment forces you to do that. It's a pretty quick process, usually takes about 10 minutes, but the clarity it provides is invaluable. You might realize that your relationships are thriving, but your health needs attention. Or maybe your career is going great, but your home life feels chaotic. And until you identify where the real issues are, you can't address them effectively. Once I've done that assessment, I move into what I call a 90-day review. This is where I ask myself some honest questions about the past 90 days, but also about where I am right now and where I'm heading. The questions are pretty straightforward. What's been going well in the past 90 days? What hasn't been working? What am I feeling really good about right now? What am I not feeling so good about? What am I excited about moving into this next quarter? What am I nervous about or anxious about? This process usually takes me 10 or 15 minutes to go through this little worksheet that I have, and yet I get so much insight and so much clarity because we don't often take the time to actually step back and do a real check-in with ourselves, do we? We just keep moving from one thing to the next without pausing to reflect on what's working and what isn't. The combination of those two things, the life score assessment and the 90-day review, usually gives me enough insight to start getting clear about where I need to go with my goals for this next quarter. And that's when I move into identifying what I call my 5 on fire goals. These are the 5 things that if I accomplish them in the next 90 days would create massive momentum in my life. Not 10 goals, not 20, 5. Because if you give yourself too many goals to focus on, you can't actually focus on anything. Your brain gets overwhelmed and everything starts to feel equally important, which means nothing gets the attention it actually needs. But 5 goals? That's manageable. That's focused. That's achievable. Now, out of those 5, I always choose one wildly important goal, my WIG. This is the one thing that takes priority above everything else. The goal that if I only accomplished one thing this quarter, I'd be thrilled with this one. Then I put the other 4 goals in order of priority so I'm clear about what comes second, third, fourth, and fifth. This might sound overly structured, but trust me, when life gets chaotic and you have to make quick decisions about where to spend your time and energy, having this clarity is everything. For my bigger goals, especially my WIG, I use something called a goal-crushing worksheet. This isn't fluffy goal setting. This is getting crystal clear on exactly what needs to happen. The worksheet walks me through questions like, what exactly is this goal? How will I measure it? How will I know I've actually accomplished it? Why does this goal matter? What's my real motivation behind it? What specific steps do I need to take? What could potentially derail me? And how will I handle those obstacles? What are the consequences if I don't achieve this goal? And how will I celebrate when I accomplish it? That last question might seem silly, but it's not. When you plan how you'll celebrate, you're programming your brain to expect success. You're making the goal feel real and achievable instead of some distant fantasy. I don't always do the goal crushing sheet for every single goal if it's something small, but for anything that's significant, I try to fill out that worksheet because it forces me to think through all the potential challenges and roadblocks ahead of time. What I love about this process is that it takes big, overwhelming goals and breaks them into manageable pieces. Instead of lose 30 pounds, you might have establish a consistent meal planning rhythm or walk 4 times per week for 12 weeks. Instead of grow my business, you might have launch my new service with specific steps like create the offer, build the sales page, and plan the marketing campaign. See the difference? The first version feels impossible and overwhelming. The second version feels like a project with clear action steps that you can actually wrap your head around. When you get this level of clarity, your brain stops seeing your goals as these massive, intimidating mountains you have to climb. Instead, it sees them as a series of small hills you can absolutely conquer, one step at a time. But setting the goals is just the beginning. The real magic happens in the execution, and that's what we need to talk about next. How to create daily and weekly routines that actually move you toward your goals instead of just keeping you busy. Because busy and productive are not the same thing. And if you've ever found yourself feeling overwhelmed, but not accomplished, exhausted, but not satisfied, you know exactly what I mean. You can be incredibly busy and still make zero progress on the things that actually matter to you. That's where having a planning rhythm becomes absolutely crucial. So, what exactly is a planning rhythm? It's just regular habits that keep you consistently moving toward your goals, even when motivation is nowhere to be found. I have a planning rhythm that includes monthly planning, weekly planning, and daily planning. Now, for some people, especially if you're not used to it, this might feel like a lot of planning. But the reality is that planning saves you so much time. It prevents you from spinning your wheels, it prevents you from going off track. There's actually research that shows every minute you spend planning saves you 12 minutes in execution. And I can tell you from personal experience that this is absolutely true. In fact, I think that's a low estimate. Planning is never a waste of time. So let me walk you through my monthly planning first. This involves doing a little bit of self-reflection, not as intensive as the quarterly planning, but I like to identify my big 3 goals for the month. Because the reality is that if you give yourself too many goals to focus on, you can't focus on anything. So I always try to limit it to just 3. These are the 3 things that I want to accomplish this month. Sometimes those 3 things could be a portion of maybe one of the bigger quarterly goals that I've set, or it could be a separate goal altogether. Then I ask myself, what specific results do I want to create this month? This is kind of an open question, but it could be related to those big 3. Or if you have a business, it could be related to the results you want to create in your business, the amount of money you want to generate, or it could be related to relationships or just your overall vibe. If we're talking about the holiday months, it could be something like, I want to have an amazing Christmas with my family. These are the results that I want to have this month. The next question I ask myself is crucial. What has the potential to derail me this month, and how will I respond? Just like with the goal crushing sheets, this is such an important question. You need to be self-aware enough to know what tends to get you off track, especially in certain seasons. Different seasons have different challenges, and in October, I might be busy going to football games and trying to keep up with my daughter's cheer schedule. But in November, it's more about getting ready for the holidays. These are different things that have the potential to derail me. I want to think ahead about what could go wrong and how I'm going to respond to that. How am I going to account for that? How am I going to be proactive about making sure that it doesn't completely throw me off course? I also mark out any important days for the month. Birthdays, anniversaries, other commitments that I need to be aware of. I indicate any people that I would like to connect with because as adults, it's hard to maintain friendships when everybody's so busy. So I'll usually think about someone I haven't reached out to for a while and make a note to give them a call or see if they want to do something. Then I like to pick a monthly theme or inspiration for the month. Sometimes it's a quote, sometimes it's just a phrase that I want to repeat to myself, sometimes it's a word like a theme word for the month of what I want to be practicing. Sometimes it's a Bible verse that speaks to me, and then I'll identify the thought or belief that I'll be practicing. This comes down to work that I do on what I call resistance repair. It's the idea that your thoughts create your emotions, which create your actions. So if you want to change your actions, you have to change your thoughts. And we have power over our thoughts, but you have to practice those new thoughts regularly. So that's the monthly part of my planning rhythm. But it doesn't stop there because I also do weekly planning. Every week, I use a little planning tool called the Weekly Wizard. It's pretty simple, just a 1-page sheet that I usually fill out on Sundays. I start with doing a brain dump. This is something I do every week. getting all the things that are on my mind, all the things that I need to be thinking about, all the things that are on my to-do list that are kind of churning around in my brain out onto paper. The weird thing about life is that when you have all this stuff in your head, your brain can't actually make sense of it. Everything feels equally big and equally important. It's not until you get it out on a piece of paper that your brain can actually sort through it and start to prioritize it. Once I've done my brain dump, then I will prioritize my list with my A tasks, my B tasks, and my C tasks. My A tasks are my must-do items, and this is really, really important. Tasks are only the things that are going to get you closer to your big goals. Your B tasks are all the other things that are important but not related to your goals. These often feel more urgent than the A tasks, but you have to start training your brain to prioritize things that are going to move the needle. Your C tasks are your would like to do items, things you would like to do if you have time, but they don't feel particularly urgent and they're not moving you closer to your goals. After I prioritize my to-do list, I pick a big focus for the week just to keep myself on track. Sometimes it's one of those must-do items on my A task list, but sometimes it's just an overall theme. Like if I'm in a launch week for my business, that might be my focus. Then I take a few minutes to plan my meals for the week. I particularly like to do this on Sunday. And after I make my meal plan, I'll go to the grocery store and get my groceries for the week so I'm all set up. I found as a mom, as a business owner, and as somebody who cares about eating healthy, that when I take the time to plan my meals for the week goes smoothly. And when I don't, it's chaos. I don't feel good. I don't end up eating well. It's such a game changer for life in general because your family is always going to want to eat dinner and you are always going to want to eat dinner. A failure to plan is planning to fail. And that's why so many people get off track with their health goals, their budget, their time management, everything. So that's the weekly stuff. But real results come down to what you do every day. So let's talk about my daily planning rhythm, because this is where the rubber really meets the road. This is something I do every single morning. Though you could also do it the night before if you're more of a night owl and don't like to get up early. But I basically turn into a pumpkin after about 7 p.m., so I always do this first thing in the morning. It only takes a few minutes to fill out, but it really does make such an impact on my day. I start by identifying what I call my one thing. What is the one thing that I can do today that is going to make everything else easier or unnecessary? I always like to have a one thing for the day. This is the thing that is going to be the game changer. This is the one thing that is going to make me feel like it was a successful day. This is the one thing that I absolutely need to accomplish. Then I have, again, my A tasks, my B tasks, and my C tasks. My A tasks are my must-do items or the things that are getting me closer to my goals. The B tasks are my should-do items or the things that typically feel urgent but aren't moving me closer to my goals. And then my C tasks are the nice to do items. Using this process every single day really does train your brain how to prioritize and how to think differently about your time. It sounds so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. I also like to identify what a successful day looks like. If I can only get a few things done or one thing done, what does that look like? What does success look like today, and how will I celebrate if I actually achieve that success? Am I going to have a glass of wine? Am I going to take a long bubble bath? Am I going to watch my favorite show? Planning the celebration ahead of time makes the goal feel real and achievable. My daily plan also has an hour-by-hour schedule, so I'll usually jot down my time blocking and how I want to be structuring my time for that particular day. This is only semi-helpful on work days because I also do time blocking on Apple Calendar, but I find it particularly helpful on my off days because sometimes when I'm not at work, I can tend to be less structured with my time, and then I find myself sitting around scrolling on my phone, doom scrolling, or bed rotting, as my teenagers call it. I'll also jot down a reminder of what's for dinner that night. It's such a dumb little thing, but thinking about this in the morning is so helpful because sometimes I'll realize things like, oh, we were going to have steak for dinner, but all the steaks are in the freezer, so I need to take those out this morning, or they're not going to be thawed out. The daily plan also includes space for what I'm feeling grateful for that day. And again, that thought or belief that I'm practicing, reminding myself of that consistently. And from there, every day, it's just a matter of working through that daily plan. Simple in theory, right? But not always quite as easy in practice. So let's talk about my daily planning rhythm, because this is where the rubber really meets the road. This is something I do every single morning. Though you could also do it the night before if you're more of a night owl and don't like to get up early. But I basically turn into a pumpkin after about 7 p.m., so I always do this first thing in the morning. It only takes a few minutes to fill out, but it really does make such an impact on my day. I start by identifying what I call my one thing. What is the one thing that I can do today that is going to make everything else easier or unnecessary? I always like to have a one thing for the day. This is the thing that is going to be the game changer. This is the one thing that is going to make me feel like it was a successful day. This is the one thing that I absolutely need to accomplish. Then I have, again, my A tasks, my B tasks, and my C tasks. My A tasks are my must-do items, or the things that are getting me closer to my goals. The B tasks are my should-do items, or the things that typically feel urgent but aren't moving me closer to my goals. And then my C tasks are the nice-to-do items. Using this process every single day really does train your brain how to prioritize and how to think differently about your time. It sounds so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. I also like to identify what a successful day looks like. If I can only get a few things done or one thing done, what does that look like? What does success look like today, and how will I celebrate if I actually achieve that success? Am I going to have a glass of wine? Am I going to take a long bubble bath? Am I going to watch my favorite show? Planning the celebration ahead of time makes the goal feel real and achievable. My daily plan also has an hour-by-hour schedule, so I'll usually jot down my time blocking and how I want to be structuring my time for that particular day. This is only semi-helpful on work days because I also do time blocking on Apple Calendar, but I find it particularly helpful on my off days because sometimes when I'm not at work, I can tend to be less structured with my time, and then I find myself sitting around scrolling on my phone, doom scrolling, or bed rotting, as my teenagers call it. I'll also jot down a reminder of what's for dinner that night. It's such a dumb little thing, but thinking about this in the morning is so helpful because sometimes I'll realize things like, oh, we were going to have steak for dinner, but all the steaks are in the freezer, so I need to take those out this morning, or they're not going to be thawed out. The daily plan also includes space for what I'm feeling grateful for that day. And again, that thought or belief that I'm practicing, reminding myself of that consistently. And from there, every day, it's just a matter of working through that daily plan. Simple in theory, right? But not always quite as easy in practice. Because the truth is that no matter how good your planning system is, you're still human. Which means there will be days when you wake up and the thought of working on your goals feels overwhelming. Or you'll hit a setback that makes you want to throw in the towel. Or you'll just have one of those days where your brain tries to convince you that binge watching Netflix is more important than your dreams. This is normal. This is not a sign that you're broken or that the system doesn't work. This is just part of being human. But what separates people who achieve their goals from people who don't is how they handle resistance when it shows up. Anytime I realize that I am facing resistance or struggling in some area of my life and I can't really figure out exactly what's going on, maybe I feel dissatisfied, or I'm feeling some discontentment or irritation, or I'm having resistance towards something that I want to be doing, but for some reason can't get myself to do it. I like to go through a process that I call resistance repair. It's really a simple process. First, I identify what the resistance is. What's the thing that I'm resisting? What's the thing that I feel discontent about? Just naming the situation. What is actually happening right now? From there, I identify my thoughts that are related to the situation. What are the actual sentences being played in my head right now? Because anytime there's a situation, we have thoughts about it. And a lot of times those thoughts are what caused the emotions. So the next question is, how do these sentences make me feel? What are the thoughts that are playing in my head, and what are the emotions I'm feeling as a result? Is it making me angry? Is it making me scared? Is it making me lethargic? What is the emotion that I'm feeling? Then I look at the resulting action. What is it that I am doing or not doing as a result? Because emotion is what creates action. If I feel scared, I might not do the thing that I want to be doing, or I might be doing something self destructive instead, like eating cake for dinner instead of following my meal plan. Then I have to think about what are the consequences of that action or inaction. If I'm eating cake for dinner, I'm gaining weight and I'm not feeling good about my body and I'm feeling sick and disgusted with myself. That's the impact. From there, I work on reframing. If these are the sentences that are currently being played in my head that are leading to these emotions, how am I going to change these thoughts? I actually write down what my new thought will be because thoughts drive emotion, which then creates action. But you have the power to change your thoughts. So you have to decide what your new thought will be and then practice that new thought regularly. That's why I give myself lots of opportunities to practice that new thought regularly in my planning process, whether it's monthly, weekly, or daily. But the beautiful thing about having a planning rhythm is that every day is a chance to start fresh. If one day gets derailed, it's not that critical because you can always start over the next day. And honestly, that's what keeps me on track because I know that big goals never happen all at once. They are only the result of small steps taken consistently over time. The reality is that life doesn't always go perfectly. You don't always achieve every single goal or every single task that you set out to accomplish, but the effort is what compounds over time. Another thing that I say to myself all the time is focus on the output, not the outcome. This really is another way of saying focus on what you can control. You can't always control the outcome of the effort that you put in, but you can control the amount of effort you put in. The thing that I love most about this entire system is that it creates momentum in and of itself. The process of planning and reviewing, combined with regular journaling to reflect on how things are going, keeps you connected to your progress in a way that maintains motivation even when the initial excitement wears off. I have a lot of journal prompts that I ask myself throughout the quarter. I try to journal at least once a week and maybe more if I'm processing things. That reflection helps keep my motivation and momentum going because I'm constantly checking in with myself about what's working and what isn't. But the real power is in the compound effect. Small, consistent actions taken daily create results that look almost magical to the outside world. But it's not magic, it's just the power of having a system and sticking to it. Each week builds on the previous week. Each month builds on the previous month. And by the end of the quarter, you're amazed at how much progress you've made because you've been taking small steps consistently instead of trying to make giant leaps sporadically. That's why I believe so strongly in quarterly sprints. They're long enough to create real change, but short enough to maintain focus and urgency. And when you string together several quarters of intentional progress, you create the kind of life transformation that people spend years hoping for. The system also helps you celebrate wins along the way. When you're checking in regularly and tracking your progress, you notice the small victories that you might otherwise overlook. And those small victories fuel your motivation to keep going. This isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. It's about showing up every day and doing the work even when you don't feel like it. It's about having a plan that carries you forward when willpower fails. And that's exactly what I'm going to be modeling in the Finish Strong project. How this system works in real life with real challenges and real adjustments along the way. I am genuinely so excited about this opportunity to take you behind the scenes of my actual quarterly sprint because I've been teaching time management and productivity and goal setting for years. But this is different. This isn't just me teaching you a system. This is me living the system out loud and inviting you to follow along with the real day-to-day process. You'll see my actual planning process in action. Not the polished, Instagram-worthy version, but the actual day-to-day reality of pursuing big goals while running a business and raising teenagers and managing all the chaos that comes with real life. You'll see how I handle it when things don't go according to plan, how I adjust and recalibrate and push through resistance. You'll see my frustrations and my wins and everything in between. You'll get access to every single planning tool I use and all the stuff I talked about in this episode. The Life Score Assessment, the 90-day review worksheet, the goal crushing worksheet, the weekly wizard, the daily do it, the resistance repair worksheet, all of it. These are the exact tools that have helped me stay consistent for years. But what makes this different from just getting access to a course or a planner is that you'll see me using these tools in real time. You'll see how I adapt them when life gets messy. You'll see the thought process behind the decisions I make. You'll also have a community of people who are committed to finishing strong right alongside you. There's something powerful about not doing this alone, about having accountability and encouragement and the shared energy of a group of people all moving toward their goals. You can share your own goals and get support when you're struggling. You can celebrate wins with people who understand what it takes to make consistent progress. You can ask questions and get real answers from someone who's actually implementing the system alongside you. And here's a bonus I haven't even mentioned yet. Everyone who joins the Finish Strong Project also gets a ticket to my Ignite Your Best Year Yet event happening in December. This is a virtual event I hosted 2 years ago that was absolutely incredible. People are still telling me it changed their lives, that they had their best year ever because of the clarity and focus they gained. I didn't do it last year, even though everyone was asking for it, but I'm bringing it back this December. It's the perfect way to set yourself up for success in 2026. So you're not just getting the Finish Strong Project, you're also getting equipped to make next year your most intentional and productive year yet. The combination of finishing this year strong and then immediately diving into planning for next year creates this incredible momentum that most people never experience. Instead of limping across the finish line and then hoping January 1st will magically motivate you, you'll be sprinting into the new year with clarity and momentum already built. And listen, I price this to be accessible because I genuinely want it to be a no-brainer for anyone who is interested. It's just $47 to join the group. That's it. For all the planning tools, the behind-the-scenes access, the community, and a ticket to an event that could transform your entire approach to goal setting. So like I said, the link is in the show notes. So get in there ASAP because it's going to be epic. Honestly, I can't wait. As we wrap up today's episode, I want you to really think about something. What would it feel like to end 2025 knowing that you didn't just let the final quarter slip away? What would it feel like to actually finish strong? A lot of women use the busy holiday season as an excuse to put their goals on hold. They tell themselves they'll start fresh in January. But what if you were different? What if you use this season as a catalyst for creating real momentum? It's not too late, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just takes consistent action and the right system to support you. So whether your goals are health-related, business-focused, relationship-centered, or just focused on getting your life more organized and intentional, I hope you'll consider joining me because it doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve, the system is the same. So that's everything I have for you today. But as always, if this episode resonated with you, I'd love if you'd share it with someone who needs to hear it. And please take a minute to leave a review. It really does help other people find the show. And I'll see you back here for another new episode very soon.